Anybody recognize this? This is Brahms' German Requiem. Ein deutsches Requiem. It's absolutely an amazing piece. This is a very interesting recording because this piece, this is a historically informed recording, meaning it is at 19th century pitch using 19th century instruments. So it's at, I think, recorded at 435. So it sounds close, but it's just the tiniest bit flat. This piano is probably very flat because they don't, why would you tune this? But I think even more interesting is the way the strings in particular are playing with minimal vibrato, which makes this sound more Baroque. And Brahms was obsessed with Bach, with Baroque music, Renaissance counterpoint. I've talked about this before, Brahms loved counterpoint. But this performance kind of makes it sound more like old music, kind of antique, ancient music, which in Brahms' time, this would have been. Brahms was kind of considered a fuddy-duddy. It's not until the 20th century that composers really start to appreciate how ahead of his time he was musically. Okay, I wanted to pick up right where we left off. Didn't want to waste any time writing things down. So here were those two last assignments. Can you all see this one here? Kind of, bottom staff is gone, essentially. The top staff matters more, but the bottom staff matters some. I can kind of talk it through just so it's clear what the notes are, and you'll be able to see from the video if you need. So this diagram that I like to draw, everybody has a different way of visualizing how tonal music works. To me, this is the most expressive description because there is a sense of motion in the way it's written out, right? What was the implied expression in species counterpoint? Implied directional expression in species counterpoint. Just make sure this is open. As a line gets higher, what happens to that line? What does that imply as a line gets higher? A melody in species counterpoint. Okay. Louder, meaning what? Expressively, what happens to that line as it gets higher and it gets louder? Stronger, louder. Horn players, do you enjoy playing high notes? Yes. It's one masochist up here. As you go higher, the pitches get kind of closer together. You're like, I hope that's the right note. You get somewhere around the right note. More tension as a line goes up, right? As music rises, there is expressively more tension. And conversely, as it falls, it's sort of, that's the natural state of things. We want to fall. We want to move downwards. That's a sort of a relaxation. Or being pulled someplace else, right? Gravity is pulling you towards the center of the earth. You're resisting it, you're pushing away from it. What's happening with these harmonies as we go further up? And this is F major, obviously, right? F major. Tell me about the 7 chord, 7 diminished. What's in that chord? Huh? It's not augmented, it's diminished, right? But it's different, right? We have major, minor, major, minor, major, minor, diminished. It's different. It's a diminished harmony. What did I say about diminished chords the other day? Yeah.
A very strong 5.
Yes, exactly. I said the other day that 7 in some texts I've seen is written like this. It's like a 5 that's like extra. It's 5 but more 5. A diminished triad is dissonant to itself. Why is it dissonant to itself? Diminished fifth, yes. What's up with the diminished fifth? Why is that? Yes, it creates a dissonance within itself because the root note has a strong octave and fifth overtone which conflicts with that diminished interval. So this harmony has that dissonance built in. It's very cool. There's a ton of tension just in the chord itself. What else is interesting about this chord? What's its function? If it's like a super 5, what's its function?
Push up to solve it.
What is 5? What's the function of 5? It's not tonic. The tonic is this, right? That's the tonic. 1 is tonic. Dominant, right? But like extra dominant. So this is the dominant. D, 5 is the dominant. 7 is like extra dominant. Why is it extra dominant? Why is it more intensely dominant? Huh?
It's more likely to be resolved.
Yes, why? What characteristic makes it more likely?
Leading to an chordal seventh.
Well, there's no chordal 7th yet. We haven't added one yet because there's no, the 7th would be a D, essentially, right? But where's the leading tone? It has a leading tone, right? E, yeah, the leading tone is the root. This is sometimes called the leading tone chord because it is the chord that is built off of the leading tone. So it has all these things going for it that make it extra tense. The diminished interval makes it very tense. The fact that its root is the leading tone makes it very tense. The fact that it's sort of a one-upsmanship of the dominant. So this is more dominant. Put plus, right? What can this chord do? What do you think this chord can do? What could come next?
Could result in a tonic.
That is all it can do, is resolve to the tonic. It really can't go anywhere else. It has no options but to go to the tonic, in part because it has the tension of the leading tone baked in.
So
Yeah.
it kind of functions as the third inversion of the 5/7, because when you put the leading tone in the bass, it's got nothing else to do.
Yeah, it's sort of like I said, if you have a leading tone in the bass, you have to resolve it, right? Leading tone is here in 5. It would be like first inversion of 5. And inversions are what relative to their root position? Unstable. Yeah, any inversion is less stable than its root position version. So essentially, this is kind of like a really jacked up inversion of 5. So it's unstable, has the leading tone in the root. It has to go to 1. There's really kind of no option except for it to go to 1. So we can draw an arrow here. 7 goes to 1. Okay, so 5 then. Where can 5 go?
1.
Yeah, it has a leading tone in it, right? 5 can go to 1. Where can 5 not go? 4. Why is that?
Subdominant.
Right, it's subdominant. And what was the order of operations for, order of harmonies?
1, 4, 5, 1.
Tonic, subdominant, dominant, tonic. So what chord can't go in what particular position?
The 4 can't go in the 3rd position.
Subdominants cannot come between the dominant and the tonic. That's too unstable. The whole point of tonal harmony is to reinforce this. This is you. It's almost useful to think of this 1, this Roman numeral 1, as literally I, as in me. You're the protagonist. 1 is the main character. You're the main character. 1 is you. Everything is kind of happening in relationship to you. It's like your point of view. You want to continue to exist, right? You don't want to cease to exist. That's the point of life. So everything is about reinforcing your existence. You don't want to completely destabilize everything. So the point of tonal harmony is to reinforce the existence of 1. So when you put the subdominant between the dominant and the tonic, that destabilizes things too much. Okay, so 5 can't go to 4. It can't go to 2. What else do you see about all of these chords, the way that they're arranged, other than from low to high? What's the relationship between all of these chords? How far apart are they from each other? How about from one chord to the next? A third. These are all stacks of thirds, right? This is like the infinite stack of thirds. If I could just stack thirds up to infinity. It's very Britain, actually, or downwards. Western tonal harmony is tertian, right? Tertian meaning based on thirds, based on sets of thirds. So what do you notice about the relationship between adjacent chords?
They have 2 notes
In the same.
Yeah, every single one of these chords has 2 notes in common with its neighbor. Okay? This means that you can kind of substitute things sometimes. Some people look a lot alike. And if you're really bad with names like I am, sometimes you call people the wrong name because you think they look like someone else. My brother and I got mixed up all the time. His name is Ross, my name is Ryan. Both names start with R. It's very confusing. I've had enough students now where sometimes I think that a student who is not a previous student, I'll call them by the wrong name because they look kind of similar but not exactly the same. So what if 5, let's say, was going to 1, but 5 got a little confused? It's got a lot of notes in common with 1. You could maybe mix them up. It is possible for 5 to miss, to overshoot, to make a mistake. We'll talk about this later on, but this is what we would call a deceptive cadence. So what is an authentic cadence?
5, 1.
Root position 5, root position 1. But let's say 5 missed. That's what we would call a deceptive cadence. It would sound something like this. Here's a There's an authentic cadence, perfect authentic cadence. Oops, I missed. This is an instance when a subdominant, a chord that functions as a subdominant, can get in between the dominant and the tonic. And only for one reason. And why is that? We just said it. So many notes in common, right? So you have to think of this as sort of a spectrum, essentially. This is sort of like smeared harmonies, right? Yes, when you go from here to here, it's like this is the color red and this is the color blue. They couldn't be further apart. But in between, you have some purples, right? So just know that there is a certain amount of expressive imprecision in this music, and it comes from these rules that are very rigid, which you can kind of skirt the corners of if you have enough notes in common. Okay, so where can 6 go? 6 is, all right, here's subdominant. Subdominant harmonies go in this direction. What is, sorry, let me just clarify. 2 is what kind of subdominant?
It's the most something.
It's the strongest subdominant. Why did I say it was the strongest subdominant the other day? With the tonic, right? Subdominant, the subdominant and dominant don't care about each other, right? They're sort of frenemies. All we care about is the relationship of the subdominant to the tonic and the dominant to the tonic. Relative to the tonic, this subdominant is the strongest because it's the most different. Just like I said, red and blue are very different from each other. You could tell them apart anywhere. Purples in between may be a little more complicated, right? You could have a reddish purple or a bluish purple. But 2 is the most subdominant. So I'll put strong or a plus, okay? Then you have the subdominant. Then what is 6?
Weaker subdominant?
It is the weakest subdominant. I'll put that there, okay? Generally with subdominants, you move from weakest to strongest. So from 6, we could go to 4. From 6, we could go to 2. Can 6 go anywhere else?
Well, if it's a subdominant, can it go to a dominant?
Yeah. In fact, often that is what they do. So you said 1, right, or tonic. We could go to the tonic. We could also go to the dominant. We could go to the superdominant, right? I'll talk about 3 a little bit. Again, 3 is a little bit confused, okay? 6 could go to 4, 6 could go to 2, 6 could go to 1, 6 could go to 5, to 7. You have a lot of options. What about 4? Fewer options. As we move away from the tonic, you have fewer places you can go, slightly. So where can 4 go?
5.
Tonic. This is going to be very messy by the end, but hopefully you can kind of keep up with where all the arrows are. 4 could go to, yeah, it could go to the dominant. It could go all the way over here, right? It could go, where else could it go? 2, yes, it could go to 2. Can it go to 6? Technically, no. When it does in real music, not just theory land, but like real repertoire, you should notice. That's expressive. When you swim upstream, which is why I love the way this is written, because you're being pulled down by gravity from the tonic and increasing tension as you go up from the tonic. You have to swim back upstream. You have to work to go back uphill, to go from 4 to 6 or from 2 to 6, like salmon trying to return home, right? So a very expressive device with subdominant harmonies is to go backwards. And I played that Brahms example at the very end of class last time, the piano quintet. The first thing that we hear in that piece is he goes from 2 to 4 to 6, and it really feels jacked up. Okay, so from 2 then, where can we go with 2?
Go to that. To the 5 or the 7.
Yeah, from 2, you're most likely to go to the dominants. You could also go to 1, but you can't go to 4 or 6. Yeah.
Why can we go to 1 if it's, I thought we weren't supposed to go subdominant to tonic.
No, you can do subdominant tonic. So all of these have been able to go back to the tonic. You just can't go tonic, dominant, subdominant. You just can't put the subdominant between the dominant and the tonic.
Okay.
Except for,
In real music?
well, yes, of course, but 6, right? This is the one subdominant where we can get away with that because of its closeness to the tonic. Okay, this is like sort of like, I don't know if any of you read Choose Your Own Adventure books. That may have been a millennial generation thing. I am an elder millennial now, so but these books where you had like choices at the end of the chapter where you could choose, and usually you die. That's usually what happens. Okay, I know that this is a whole lot, it looks a little bit like an Alex Jones conspiracy theory chart, but you can go, so just to recap, you could go from tonic to subdominant to tonic. This is going to look like genetics. I don't know if you studied genetics in high school, but when you get all the different gene expressions in a row, it's a lot of the word cat. Anyway, you can go from tonic to dominant to tonic. You could go from tonic to dominant to a different dominant, right? We could be on 7 and then go to 5. That's possible. They have lots of notes in common. The thing you should take away from this is when you have notes in common, you can get away with a lot. Then to tonic, you could go from tonic to subdominant to another subdominant, but what direction would that have to be?
Yeah.
Meaning from weaker to stronger. Weaker meaning closer to the tonic, stronger meaning further away from the tonic. So this could be weak, this could be strong, then tonic. Okay, you could go obviously subdominant, dominant, tonic, and then one instance where you can do tonic, dominant, subdominant. And what is that one instance? From 5, root position 5 to root position 6. Think of this as an approved accident. It's the beginning of many. There will be many approved accidents in the spring. Basically, it shouldn't be called chromatic theory, it should be called accident theory, musical accident theory, because everything you learn in the spring is about an accident that is then enshrined as a thing. Okay? Following this so far? Okay, so now that we have this kind of like crazy flow chart where you know where things can go, you look over here at this melody. So we determined on Tuesday that this is F major, right? You could do D minor. Actually, let me just play you D minor. That would be a D minor harmonization of this. It's more complicated. It's doable, but more complicated. It sounds kind of jazzy almost. So if this is F major, and this is sort of our flow chart, and I highly recommend that you write this out just so you can visualize it. Not with all the crazy Alex Jones stuff, you don't have to do that. What harmonies could we have that have this note? 1. What else?
3 and 5.
3. I'll put that in parenthesis again just because 3 is kind of an ambiguous chord. 5. Anything else?
5, 7.
Yeah, it could be 5, 7. You could add a chordal seventh to this. Those are your options in terms of this, like, which chords have this literal note in it. Okay? This note, B flat. Seven. Okay. How about the third note here? This F, or sorry, A. This A.
It would just be the 1.
1. Oh, that's what you meant. I thought that was a very polite question. 1. Okay. What else? One, 6, and 3. So the thing about 3, it either substitutes for 1 or 5 because it has so much in common, or you think of it as an even, I'll put double W, an even weaker subdominant. So you could go from 3 to 4 to 5 to 1, something like that. But that's basically the usage of 3. A kind of make-believe substitute for either of these, or the weakest subdominant, because it's not a subdominant. It wants to be a subdominant. It dresses up for Halloween as a subdominant, but it is not a subdominant. Okay, so these are your options here. So how about the G? 2, okay. 5. 7, right? That has. Anything else? That's it, basically. The D, where do we find the D?
2
2,
and 4.
4, and 6. So anywhere else? Not unless we add a chordal seventh to something, or a ninth, or add like dissonant notes, but like pure root chord tones. This is the subdominant scale degree. What scale degree is this? 6. Scale degree 6. Scale degree 4 is literally the subdominant, but you only find scale degree 6 in subdominant harmonies. Okay, so scale degree 6, when you see scale degree 6, you know, okay, this chord is going to have to, or this note is going to have subdominant function underneath it. You really can't have anything else. Here, I mean, at this point, you can just look back to where we were, right? So anything that we had on this note, right? 1, 3, or 5, 2, 4, 7, and then 1, 6, and 3. We could also, this could be 5, 7, right? That's possible. Okay. What does a proper musical sentence begin on? 1. Yeah, 1, or you're in the middle of a thought. But if you're going to begin something at the beginning of the thought where it is very clear what the context is, why you're saying it, all of that, really we should start this on 1. How does every musical thought, proper musical thought, end? On 1, right? And what comes before that? We end with an authentic cadence. Every complete musical thought, and again you will encounter mostly incomplete musical thoughts, because that is, why would you write music if not to enjoy the mystery of incomplete thoughts? But a complete, finished musical thought ends with root position 5, root position 1. If something else happens, that is devastating. Your world has been turned upside down. Okay, I want you to try as much as possible to imbue emotions in these things. Otherwise, this looks like the writings of an insane person. It's just like scribbles all the way to Canada. So you must end on 5 and 1, otherwise something crazy happened. Okay? So we begin on 1, we end with 5, 1, and this is going to be some kind of authentic cadence. Do we know what kind of authentic cadence it's going to be?
Yeah.
How do we know?
It'll be,
It's imperfect because the soprano's not going to end on 1.
Scale degree 1. Exactly. If the soprano ends, steps into, you must step into it. The proper ending is the soprano moving by step or common tone. In this case, it has to be by step. It would be perfect if it stepped into scale degree 1. This is definitely not scale degree 1. This is scale degree 3. It is therefore an imperfect authentic cadence. You could end a piece this way, but it is less conclusive than a perfect authentic cadence. This is the slightly less stable authentic cadence. Imperfect, you could also write unstable authentic cadence. Imperfect, I find sort of an unexpressive word, and perfect, what does that mean musically? Stable versus unstable. This is relatively unstable relative to a perfect authentic cadence. Okay, so we have our bookends. We know the beginning, we know the end. So now we start thinking, okay, well, we have 1. What can come after 1? We have 2, we have 4, we have 7. 4? Or 7. You know, 1 is sort of like the queen in chess. 1 kind of has all the moves. 1 can go anywhere. You are 1. It is I. I have all the choices. I am in control, right? 1 has all the options. 1 can go anywhere. So you said 4, right? Let's do 4. Okay, where can 4 go?
6. Can it? No, that's upstream.
Exactly. 6. 6 is a weaker subdominant than 4. So that would be a thing. If we went from 4 to 6, that would be like, whoa, what just happened? And it would be a weird place to do that, right? On the weakest beat of the bar. Beat 4 is the weakest beat of a 4/4 bar. So that would be devastating and probably just a mistake. Okay? But maybe you do that. Maybe you want that. But usually if you make a mistake, you make that goddamn mistake on the downbeat, motherfucker. Like it's like, I meant it. You don't put it on a weak beat. You put it on the strong beat and you mean it. Okay? So, excuse my language. Okay, so we really can't go to 6. 3.
It's like not real.
3 is like the weakest, not really a subdominant. I mean, you could, but it would sound very weird. I promise. But so 3, I'll clarify 3 later, but 3 is, you should just avoid it if you don't need to. Don't need to use it. 1.
Riddle my midterms threes.
Huh?
My midterms be riddled with threes.
Yeah, well, I'll talk about when you can use it. It would be, yeah, if it would be, let's just pencil in 3 so I can show you how it'd be used. Okay? I'll do that after. All right, so then here, if we're on 1, where can we go now?
Anywhere.
Anywhere. Yeah, we have options. We can go anywhere, any of these. Stu, what?
I was just thinking, it'd be, if we go to the 5, it'd be a fun place to throw on the 6.
5. Okay, let's do 5. So if we go from, if we're at 5, I said, when can you go from 5 to 6? A deceptive cadence. Where do cadences happen?
Yeah.
End of a phrase. And what is a deceptive, what makes a cadence in terms of voice leading? The stepwise. What's the soprano doing here? This would be a very weird place for a deceptive cadence. In fact, if this was root position 5, which would be a C in the bass, and then we went to root position 6, which is a D in the bass, what voice leading error have I just caused?
That seems similar.
Similar motion into a perfect interval where the soprano is leaping and the bass is moving by step. So really, actually, the only place that you will see a 6 chord after a 5 chord is at the end of the sentence when I am absolutely trying to destroy you. Okay, right? It's powerful because it's 1 should have been there. It should have been 1, but instead it was 6. You ruined my sentence. Now I have to say another sentence. Spring semester, okay? Also a deceptive cadence. There you go. Not really a resolution, but something like it. Okay, so we really actually can't go to 6. So from 5, can we go anywhere else? Can we go to 2?
No.
No.
Only go to 1.
Can we go to 4? No. We're stuck. This is a dead end. We are not allowed to go to any of these chords from 5. So we can't have 5. Done. Okay, what about 7? If we had 7 here,
We could, but it's...
It can only go to 1 or 5, though.
exactly. 7 is even more restrictive than 5.
Yeah.
You can't go from 7 to 6. I didn't say that was possible because 7 has the leading tone in the bass or in the root. That's got to go to, this is just big problem. So, and it's even more dominant. The dominant wants to resolve the tonic. Can't do 7. Only thing we can do is 2. So where can we go from 2? Why not the other ones?
Because we can't do that because they're weaker subdominants.
They're weaker subdominants. It would be swimming upstream. Here's what 2 going to 4 would sound like. It's almost like what I said about chordal sevenths. You can't unmilk your coffee. You've put milk in your coffee, you've got to drink your coffee. You can't, you change your mind. I didn't want oat milk. I'm going to magically pull it out. Going from a strong subdominant to a weak subdominant is a little bit like unmilking your coffee. You've gone to that more dense, more complex place. You can't simplify it. Yeah.
Like 2 to 2, like staying on the same subdominant. That'd be a place to use inversions.
Exactly. This could maybe be a 2-6,
Yeah.
and we go to 2 root position. Could we go to 2-6-4?
No,
I'd
not
love
yet.
to.
No, because what's the deal with 6-4? Unstable relative to what?
itself.
Itself. A 6-4 chord is unhappy with itself. It doesn't want to be itself. It's so unstable that it would like to be something else. So we have to handle them in very special ways. We have to sort of, it's in a rough spot, and you have to kind of talk it through its problem, essentially. Okay, 6-4 chords are dangerous. They need special care. So we could go from 2-6 to 2, or 2 to 2-6, whatever, something like that. Okay, so 2, and then another 2. Sorry, that was correct. All right, from 2, where can we go?
Just one, right? Just one.
We could go to 5.
Oh, we can.
We could, and then this could be 5-7. Could we go from 5-7 to 5? No, you can't unmilk your coffee. You chose oat milk, that's your fault. You should have chosen coconut milk. Yeah, you can't do that. So we could do 5 to 5-7. We could do 1, 2 to 1. It's a little weird because it's a very dissonant relationship. They have nothing in common, but you could do that. So you could do 1, you could do 5. Remember what I said about 3. 3 often substitutes for either of them, either 1 or 5. You could have 3 if you wanted something ambiguous. Just know that when you use 3, it's ambiguous. Here's 5. Here's 3. 3-6, actually. They're close. Here's 1-6. Here's 3. Very close. Just one note inside is different. One note inside the chord. Okay? But really, the normal thing to do would be 1 or 5. So let's maybe do 5. Okay, so now we can clean this up. We have a pathway. All right.
Fill in our baseline.
Yeah. So what does every complete musical thought begin on? What kind of 1? Root position 1. Okay, unless we want to absolutely be crazy. All right, so root position 4. Now what?
Go back to 1.
Could we go to a different inversion of 1?
Yeah. You could go like 1-6, 2-6.
Yeah, 1-6. Are there any issues? Oh, no, not fifths, but B flat, B flat, A, A. This is a danger. So, nope, we can't go, not with this voice leading, right? And we can't, what inversion of 1 would have this in the bass?
That'd be a 6-4.
This is a 6-4 chord. Ah, shit. Hide it. Don't tell it. Don't show it the light. All right, so we could go back to root position 1. Could we have done this another way? This 4 chord? What? I respond to confident nodding. It makes me very happy. It's like, yes.
No, I was gonna like change the chord, but never mind.
Yeah, we could have done like a 2 chord.
I did a 5-7, would that be bad?
That's fine. That would also work. I forgot to include that. But any chord that has this B flat, that's a 5. That's the chordal 7th of 5. You could do that. You could also do a 4-6. And in fact, that now opens up our 1-6. Do you see how this works now? 4-6, 1-6. That's similar motion into a perfect octave, but soprano is moving by step. This is a common move. This you've heard that going from 4-6 to 1-6. Right, something like that. So there's usually a way out. There's usually a solution. So 2. Can we do root position 2?
Go 2-6, step up to B flat.
Let's see what happens when we do root position 2.
Well, that's parallel octaves.
Parallel octave, exactly. So we can't do that. We need to do an inversion of 2. 2-6. Here's where the inversions can save you, essentially. Right? You can decide on the kind of the root position chord based on, see you later, based on, the pitches that are in the harmonies, and then the inversions can kind of help you with your voice leading. All right, so now from 2-6 to here, do we change anything? We could. We could also change nothing. We could just make this a whole note, leave this as 2-6 through the whole bar. We could see if that works here. More interesting, I think, is to do that, personally. Totally subjective. Okay? How about we do, since I told you 3 can substitute for 1 or 5, what would 3 root position be most directly substituting for? Here's 3 root position.
The 5 because it has the root and the third of the 5, which is the most important.
Yeah, so there is no version of 5, no inversion of 5 that has an A in the bass.
Yeah.
Right? That's nonsense. But is there an inversion of 1 that has an A in the bass?
Yeah.
1-6. 3 can substitute. Any place you would have used 1-6, you can use 3. Root position 3. Any place you would have used 5, except here, because this has to be 5, but I'll just write it here for the heck of it. Here is 3-6. What does this look most like? If you squint really hard. Yeah, it looks like root position 5. That's what I just played for you a moment ago. So here's 3. Sorry. Here's 1-6. Just change, the color is different, obviously. The sound of the chord is different, but most of the voices are in the same place. One note just moved up. And then here's 3 root, first inversion, 3-6. Here's a 5 chord. And in fact, you often hear that kind of a progression, 3 to 5, 3, 6 to 5 to 1. Okay? Does that make sense about 3? That's really traditionally where it is most commonly used is as a substitute for these two chords. All right? So let's have this root position 3 chord be here. So this will be our 3. And then here, it has to be what? In order to make our imperfect authentic cadence, we need a root position 5, 7, root position 1. Okay? We could part write this. I'm just going to trust you to know how to part write at this point. I know that you've been part writing for all of like 3 minutes relative to your life. But I'll just play this progression for you, just kind of make up the part writing as I go. Actually, we should sing this. Who am I kidding? That's the, I'll just do a quick part right here and hopefully not screw up. Keep the voices in the same place. Uh-oh, I'm about to have an error. Anyone see it? If you see it, you get a round of applause. See the mistake? Anyone see the mistake? I have to include one always, just to show you that I'm human.
If I can think of the notes, then that's all right.
Oh, you parallel fifths and
Yeah.
bass and the tenor. I'll tell you which one it is.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, parallel fifths, right there. Alto and bass. Okay, how can I fix it? Quickly.
I don't know, man.
So when you have a parallel interval like this, try to move one of the voices, one of the notes to another chord tone that's nearby. That's usually the best solution, so long as it doesn't create another parallel interval. So if I move this to a C, that creates parallel octaves here. If I move this up to an A, that's doable. That's fine. That's within an octave. That's a bit more leapiness than I would like. If we move this up to a G, that saves us. It's kind of not great either way, but this works. Okay? All right, let's sing this. I'll just play this out. Let's hum along. Okay, now for real. Ready? 3, 4. And now once a cappella. 3, 4. Beautiful. This is a proper classical melodic harmonization. Followed all the rules, the voice, it all kind of fits together. A lot of these rules are kind of machine-like. it's like cogs in a watch. They all just kind of fit together perfectly. It's at this point that a great composer like Brahms might mess with us and do something weird. The weirdest thing we did here was this 3 chord. That was the most ambiguous moment, a substitution for 1/6, essentially. Okay, any questions about that? Good? Okay. Minor. So basically all exactly the same, except that we have one extra wrinkle. What's the wrinkle in minor? Huh? This leading tone. So what does this now do for 3? Can 3 substitute for 5 now? There is a version of 3 we'll look at in the spring semester. Don't use it now. I just want you to know it exists, which is this. 3 augmented, where we add a leading tone to 3. This is now literally 5. This is now literally dominant function. This is the thing about minor, is that minor, whereas it's a little bit like a, I don't know, I think of like a stereotypical spy or something, like wears many hats, has lots of outfits and costumes, and can go incognito and dress up. Minor has different faces. It can be many different things. What are some, sorry, got ahead of myself there. In this case, don't worry about 3 augmented, please. Just don't deal with that. But now, where does 3 in particular, what does it especially want to do that the little 3 up here didn't want to do? There's a strong relationship now here that wasn't present before. And we have a very expressive HVAC system.
Oh, I thought it was he was doing lip drills.
Yes,
Every time I was like, oh, they're singing
you know,
somewhere.
it's heard Rufus's students warm up so many times that now the HVAC system is imitating them.
It imitates us.
What would 3 be the dominant of?
No, this is getting jazz.
So 3, this is an E major chord, right? What is E major? The harmonically expressed scale degree 5 of?
5 of 7.
Not quite. What is 7 in this case? 7, scale degree 7 is what in C sharp minor?
No, that's wrong.
A major, which is
A major, I was thinking B.
6.
5 of 6.
3 now really wants to go to 6. It's not just that it was optional, like 3, maybe you can be kind of a subdominant and it'll go to a stronger subdominant. Now 3 really has its eyes on 6. It really wants to go in that direction. So you can have an instance where you go from, say, 1 to 3 to 6 to 4, 5, 1. Something. I'll write that progression out just so you can.
Could you have 7 to 3 to 6 as
I was going to get to this next. 7. So, okay, hang on. So I'll make a progression that's 3, 6, 4, 5, 1. Okay, I'm going to play this for you. I'll start with 1, actually. Start on 1. common in minor to have a little bit more ambiguity between 1 and 3. In fact, 3 is almost kind of the star of the minor mode. It's major. Major is more stable than minor. Why is that? It's why we write the uppercase and the lowercase, right? The uppercase has the major third in the root, which is lower in the harmonic series. It's a more stable interval in the harmonic series. Minor, the minor third, is further up the harmonic series. It's a less stable interval. So 1 in minor is inherently less stable than 3. I hope this makes sense and feels expressive and not too, that's why this isn't math. It's literature, essentially. This is like, the chords are used in this expressive way because they have this affect, but that's not math. That's literature. So 3 takes a bigger role in minor. A lot of Schubert in minor keys. Here's a song of Schubert called Vergisst mein nicht. It's a very interesting song for voice and piano, soprano and piano. It's like 15 minutes long. It's insanely long, but it starts in F minor. What key is this? We were in F minor to start. 1, 3. So A flat major, that's 3 in F minor. I'm doing this just for your ears' sake because I just want you to hear this. I'll play that again. F minor. A flat major. It's almost stronger than F minor. Okay, so in minor, 3 becomes stronger than before, than in major. Okay? But you can't mix 3 with 5 anymore because of this big difference. They no longer have all these notes in common. This is why minor is interesting, because there's more of it. There are more versions of it. Okay, let me just check my notes. I don't think I'm going to actually have time to do this with you. One thing I just wanted to point out, so in this exercise, I gave you a melody up here. I think some people might have thought that meant that all the chords go down in the bass. This is the soprano. I meant for you to do this in keyboard format, which means that you would then add the other voices. Okay? Something like that. So I understand the misunderstanding. That I won't say it's my fault, but I'll sort of imply that it is for not being clear. Okay? Are there any questions about this so far?
I'm curious about on the top example, the
Yeah.
3, 1, and why the 3 is weird.
Here, it's the same thing as this, basically. It's just you can substitute, in this case, because this is 1, 6, which inversion of 3 can you substitute for it?
What's it say, just root position?
Root position, because they have the same note in the bass, right? The bass line, this is why there's so much figured bass when you do theory. The bass line determines everything. Why? Why is that?
Because bass is rock.
Yeah, basses rock. Basses have all the power. Why do basses have all the power? They're underneath everybody else. Everybody else is being like sprayed with their overtones. So whatever the basses sing affects everybody above them. So this is why what's in the bass is so important in this music. It's not just like, oh, we just so happen to have 1/6. 1/6 is less stable because the overtones of A, which are an A major chord, are mixing with the F major overtone. So you get this, that is what a first inversion F major chord is, really, is like A major mixed with F major. Sounds great, right? That's why first inversion F major, or first inversion anything, is less stable than root position. Because root position is, they all fit together. Everyone's happy. So what's in the bass really is important. Okay. Let me just go through some of our cadences, just to be very clear, because we've talked about a few now. I just want to organize them to make sure that they're all laid out clearly. Okay? Be the last thing we do. Any questions about any of this? I should say the procedure for minor, it's exactly the same that we just did up here. All the same rules apply. The only difference being that 3 is now a more significant player. Okay? Then I want to talk about your assignment, which is a little bit more, let's say, creative than you've had before. In part because I want you to translate these theoretical concepts into something that actually has some sort of poetic and or emotional significance. Stability versus instability. Okay, but we'll just talk about that real quick at the end. So, if I am in the key of, I don't know, C minor, what is a perfect, authentic cadence in C minor? So it has to be root position. Root position 5 to root position 1. Okay, this could be 7, either way, which means which notes? G and, huh? Oh, don't worry about that yet. So root the bass line. So root position 5, G, and then C. Okay? So what makes this a perfect, authentic cadence? Specifically, other than this, we got this. That makes this an authentic cadence. What makes it a perfect, authentic cadence? Soprano, stepwise into the tonic. Yes, so we're going to end up on the tonic. Which direction? Either up by step or down by step. So if it's down by step, what note is it? D, yeah. Or if it's up by step, B natural. Thank you. Yeah, I'll put those both with up stems, okay? So these would be our perfect, authentic cadence. Okay, so imperfect, authentic cadence. Write the same thing out. It's also an authentic cadence. So it could be 5 or 5/7, root position 1. But what is the soprano doing now? Huh? It could end on the 3rd. Yep, or fifth. Either one, just not the tonic. Any other note that is in this chord in 1. So where does that mean it could come from? This is also why it's imperfect, because there are, anytime you have many possibilities, something is less stable, right? When you have many options in life, you feel less stable because you could choose like one of 8 different options, and maybe one of those options is a bad option. You feel less stable. But when there's only one option, even if it's a bad option, at least you know, like, well, that's the only thing I can do. So stability versus instability is often determined by how many options do I have. If I have lots of options, you're kind of unstable. If you have very few options, stable. So what could we start on?
G, F.
So if we were on G, where could we end up? If you want to end up on G, on the 5th of the chord, you basically have to start on G. If we did, for example, this, a D up to a G, what voice leading issue do we have here? It's anti-parallel fifths. It's a fifth and then another fifth, but in contrary motion. That's considered a fault. Okay, so stepwise or common tone. When you have an authentic cadence, the soprano moves by step or common tone. So if we're going into E flat, what would it be?
D.
D is an option, or I think you said this earlier.
F.
What chord would that be if this was an F? It would be the 5-7. Okay? If we had, here's the 7th. Okay? So this goes here, or the G by common tone. Okay? So this is why it's imperfect. There's just more options. It's less stable. This is so clear, so straightforward. But imperfect, authentic cadence. What was the cadence I just told you about earlier? What is that?
6.
5 to 6. Yeah, so we were supposed to go from 5 to 1, right? That was the outcome we were supposed to get at the end of the sentence, at the moment when we were going to clarify the end of the thought, end of the paragraph. But instead, we went there. The bass made a major tactical error. They misread their score somehow by a lot. So, what about the soprano? We didn't talk about this, but what do you surmise the soprano might do in this case, based on what we've done before?
Goes down.
Contrary motion. It could go, basically anything the soprano could have done for the authentic cadences. It really, this is why this is called deceptive cadence. It's, you were preparing for an authentic cadence and the bass is fucked up. Okay, everything else is the same. If you wrote a perfect authentic cadence and then just change the bass. So here's authentic cadence. Same voice leading in the upper 3 voices, but the basses went in the wrong direction.
Bass just doesn't want to.
Exactly, the basses were like, no, I still have more to say. Okay. So this, let me move this over here, I, A, C, So basically, pack or yak, upper voices, deceptive cadence. Okay? There's another variant of the authentic cadences. It also has to do with the basses. I said the bass line is like the most important because it can cause the biggest consequences.
4.
Here's 5 or 5/7. What's this?
3.
Not really, because we presumably had a leading tone somewhere. And that leading tone, you can't go to a B flat. It'd be 1/6. Is this even a cadence? What did I say defined an authentic cadence?
It's not authentic, it's, got the term.
Root position, root position. Root position, root position, root position, root position. That's a true cadence of any kind. A cadence is an end. You don't end on an inversion. Inversions mean there's more to say. Inversions are unstable. This is what's known as an evaded cadence. I'm not even really sure why we call it a cadence then, because it's not a cadence. We have evaded the cadence. So why are we still calling it one? So this would sound, instead of like this, it would sound like this. Okay, et cetera, et cetera. Like every thought, it doesn't really end. It wants something else to happen. It guides you to something else. Okay, and then the last cadences I'll tell you about, they are also cadences, but similarly, they're not really endings, because what does a piece end on? Ends on 1. What if we ended on 5? That's not an ending. That's not the end. There's more to come. But this is what's called a half cadence or a semi-cadence. Both terms are used often. And there is a specific variant of a half cadence, has a specific name. So a half cadence, a proper half cadence is root position 1, root position 5. So it's essentially just these in reverse. There's a specific type called a Phrygian cadence, where it's 4/6 into 5, and it sounds like this. You've heard this. Just a lot of Baroque music ends this way. This is a... Okay. Your assignment. Pass this around. So there's a little bit of part writing, obviously, because I wouldn't let there not be.
Goal is to draw tears.
Yeah.
We don't because
So let me just show you this, especially the last part. Not sure if the TV is on. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Come on.
Place my bag.
All right. So this is fairly straightforward, except for the end here. So you have fall break. Thank the Lord, you have a little break. You have some time off. I want you to compose a choral setting of this text. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 syllables. All that distance beyond embrace, what is it but your own infinity? A cool little line. Each one of these syllables gets its own unique rhythmic event. It does not mean that you need to write 18 separate chords, but you could take a chord and revoice it. Right? That's the same chord revoiced. Close voicing, open voicing. So all that distance. Something like this. Okay, I want you to use all the tools that we've been learning so far, and I want you to be thinking about which words in this little bit of poetry are more stable, less stable. What's your destination? Do you want to begin this in the middle of a thought? Or is this a very clear beginning? All that distance, or is it all that distance? And the end, infinity, is that a perfect authentic cadence? Or, you know, infinity, or into infinity and beyond, right? So you get to choose how to use these chords, which each have different implications, right? They suggest things like, this is a very stable chord, this is a very unstable chord, this is a stable cadence, this is an unstable cadence. I want you to start making those connections. You will feel totally out of your water doing this, that's fine. Just do it. So 4-part SATB, you'll write the text underneath each chord, okay, inside the staff, so the text always goes in here. Like this. All right, did I do that right? Beyond, beyond. Okay? Oh yeah, you had a question.
Should all our voices be the same rhythm, or can some, like if one's holding the chord, or can the other do it?
Yeah, so I showed a couple times like maybe the bass sustains a note and the upper 3 voices move. But you should, I don't want non-chord tones. Every chord should be a chord. So no, you know, the chordal 7th, you can use a dissonance if you want. That's a dissonance. Otherwise, every event should be a measurable kind of chord that we've worked on, okay? But yes, some voices could be static while others move. Just make sure that you're aware of what the harmony is. All right, see you next Thursday. Have a great break.